Hello everybody and welcome to Warhammer Preview Online Dominion Unboxing. My name is Adam Troke. I'm joined by my friend and colleague Eddie Eccles, and we are delighted to welcome you to what is, quite frankly, one of the most exciting previews we've ever done.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. We've got a brand new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar to crack open. I think you and I both got our copy to one hand. We're ready to look inside it, dive inside it in this preview. In about 9 minutes time, we'll start taking a look at some of the details of it. But very exciting. Anybody who is an Age of Sigmar fan, we have a treat ahead of you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Basically, what's going to happen over the next hour or so, I would say, is we're going to delve right into the launch box for Warhammer Age of Sigmar's new edition. It is a mighty, mighty box indeed, and I can't wait for it. I spent some time this afternoon setting up what I would describe as Dominion Cam, and I'm super hyped to just let everybody have a look inside. I should welcome everybody properly. Of course, this thing wouldn't work without Raf, the man behind the scenes, who is powering the cameras and making sure everything works. We've also got our moderators in the chat helping make sure that all of you, our viewers, can join in the best way. Speaking of you, if you want to join in the chat and ask questions as we're going along, you can do so if you are a subscriber. You can subscribe using either an Amazon Prime subscription or by subscribing in the normal way. Press some buttons and find out if you want to. Of course, you do not have to subscribe. It's just enough having you with us to join in the fun. But if you are subscribed and you would like to, you may tell us where you've tuned in from. I see people have already started to do it. It is my favourite thing when we do these previews, is to see people chiming in with their location.
It's always really cool to have people joining in from all corners of the world. I think one of the nice things about doing it a little bit later on the Saturday is we do manage to catch a few of our American friends as well who don't have to set their alarm for some heinous hour in the morning. They can tune in during breakfast.
I've just seen someone say Shenandoah, Virginia. Is that the Shenandoah that has the Shenandoah River in Country Roads? I need to know. But the chat is going so fast because we've got Scotland, Dallas, Texas, we've got Poland, we've got Montreal calendar. Oh, somebody says yes. That is amazing. I sing that song often to my daughter when it's bedtime.
I assume they sing it as they drive home.
Oh, I would hope so, right? So wherever you are, just welcome. Honestly, this is so exciting to have you all here on what I think is a pretty momentous day, especially if Warhammer Age of Sigmar is your thing. Eddie?
And if it isn't your thing, maybe this box set will inspire you and it will become your thing, because it's a very, very cool box set. I mean, without diving into it just yet, but I think anybody who loves anything about Warhammer, there's some pretty cool stuff in this set. But Adam, what hobby have you been up to? We've got a few minutes to fill before we dive into the box proper. Do you want to tell us about what you've been up to in your hobby life?
Well, the truth is, because of getting ready for this preview, I've actually been very busy and haven't got much hobby done since the last time I was on Warhammer TV, I think. So I've been getting some base coats onto the Starblood Stalkers for Warhammer Underworlds. I'm giving Garda Steelsoul, who's still on the desk in front of me, the side eye because he needs to be finished, because I have every intention of painting one half of the contents of this set in his colour scheme. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Well, I've been painting a fair few bits actually, but I managed to find a few hours here and there to sit down in the evening. So I've nearly finished my Squig off. I'm trying to get him done in the next kind of few days so that I can paint up probably the other side of this box set. I think, Adam, I've been eyeing up. So I think at some point we might get to face off at some point.
To butt heads in the nicest way possible. I have to give a shout out to Slayer 000, whose hello from the Netherlands was so delightfully highlighted. Welcome to everybody as people keep chiming in with where they're from. Somebody from Tokyo. I love how global the Warhammer hobby is. I don't know about you, Eddie, but whenever I'm traveling, I always try and make sure if there's a Warhammer store in the town, I pop in and say hello.
There's something really nice, isn't there, about going into a Warhammer store? Because almost regardless of where you are, I think Warhammer fans everywhere are a really lovely bunch. If you go to a store, also we've had the pleasure to go to some events around the world as well, and I think it's always really nice to do that. And I think one of the things I'm looking forward to probably next year is being able to go to a few of those again and see some people face to face. As lovely as these previews are, it doesn't quite beat showing up and rolling dice and making friends in person.
No, you're absolutely right. And so as the world gets a little bit more back to normal, we'll see more of that. The events team are gearing up for a series of events across North America, which is very exciting for a start. So let's hope for more of that. We've got more people chiming in. We've got people from South Africa. We've got somebody from Newcastle, Australia. Our friends down under have joined us. Welcome, one and all. Hi from Taiwan. This is fantastic. somebody in the chat has said, "Wait, it's not 6 o'clock yet." Normally, we would begin a few minutes before 6, and then we wouldn't begin what I would describe as sort of getting into the reveals until probably like 10 past, quarter past 6. But we have something so mind-blowingly awesome to show you that at about 3 minutes past 6, we're just going to hit play and let it happen.
Yeah,
So
I think if you guys have been doing some hobby as well at home, we're always curious to see what you've been up to too. So if you've got any projects on the go at the moment, do let us know in the chat. Anything particularly cool or anything you're looking forward to in the next edition of Age of Sigmar as well. If you've been eyeing up a new army you're thinking of collecting for the next few years for the new edition, then let us know about that as well. How have the last few years of Age of Sigmar been for you, Adam? What's your Age of Sigmar experience been of the previous edition?
Well, so I am what I would describe as an Age of Sigmar casual. I paint a lot more than I play for it, and almost everything I've painted for Age of Sigmar has either been for my Stormcast Eternals army, which you can see maybe there, somewhere like that, and also I paint a fair few Warhammer Underworlds warbands because they let me sort of dip my sort of fingers into sort of different parts of the mortal realms, and that's quite satisfying for me. What about yourself?
So I think this edition of Age of Sigmar, I've been pretty heavily invested in the Ideneth Deepkin, which landed just before the previous edition dropped. And I think just one of those armies that just immediately resonated with me. I love every single miniature in the range. I think they're a wonderful opportunity for color schemes, and the miniatures are really dynamic and interesting and fun, and that kind of really wacky and weird wonderful element that the Mortal Realms can bring. So almost all of my Age of Sigmar hobby, I think, with a few exceptions of like the odd conversion here and there, a little bit of kind of free city dabbling, but it's mostly been Ideneth Deepkin, and certainly most of my games have been Ideneth Deepkin related. I've been
your Ideneth army is particularly gorgeous, though. I've got to give you credit where it's due.
That's the thing. So like all of the eels are like about one highlight away from being finished. So I am at some point going to have to kind of sit down, revisit the army, and finish painting them properly, because there's the centerpiece gets the Leviathan's lovely. Some of the heroes are finished, but I know in my head that the rest of them aren't quite done yet, so I need to finish.
No, absolutely. You asked the question. The chat has not failed to come through. We've had a few people saying what they're up to. We've had Soulblight Gravelords, Blood Knights, and Reikenor the Grimhaler, Crematorium Bone Reapers on the paint table at the moment. Eldritch Tzeentch Sorcerer Eddie. I'm not sure if that's just a reference to you or maybe somebody's named a sorcerer after you.
That's true, yeah.
Dryker and the Spirit of the Mountain. Spirit of the Mountain, is that the Lumineth, massive mountain cow?
Awesome. The Dryker is a great miniature as well. I think I've been eyeing up Sylvaneth a little bit as well in the last few weeks as well, off the back of that new miniature we've seen that was launched today, actually. A big fan of the Sylvaneth. I think the Alarial miniature is one of those models that is definitely one of my favorite models we've ever released, but I've never actually gotten around to painting it, but it's absolutely just one of the coolest things ever. And she does have a brand new war scroll today, so that might be the catalyst I need to
it's a good day for it, then, isn't it?
Wander into the forest.
Oh, somebody's asked a question. PJ Shard says, if you were to describe the set in a single word beside Dominion, what would it be? Raf has chimed in with the word that was very similar to what I was thinking. He said hefty. I believe it is a pretty sizable box in terms of... I've never done a poll on which Warhammer boxes are the heaviest, but it's certainly in the upper quadrants. Hefty works for me.
Like Beastie, maybe? Or
Beastie. Oh, look at the guy dropping what could or could not be a hint. Oh, there you go. The Vendents will be my next project. Witch Hunters for the win. I really like the Vendents. And
it's nice that they go hunting as a family as well.
I saw somebody on the internet had connected a piece of like esoteric lore.
That's good. There's some good lore diving.
I haven't corroborated the sources, but one of my favourite characters for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, I have one painted on my shelf, is the Lord Relictor that came in the original Warhammer Age of Sigmar box. Ionis Cryptborn, I want to say his name was.
It's true,
and there's a nugget of lore that suggests that he descended from an ancient family called the Vendents, and if that connects the two, and now they're sort of hunting the forces of death, that's exciting. Raf has just told me in my ear that it is 6 o'clock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to re-welcome everybody. If you've joined us since we begun, then you are most welcome to this live stream today. You have joined the Warhammer Preview Online Dominion unboxing. I am Adam Troke. This is my friend and colleague Eddie Eccles, and we represent the Warhammer community team, and it is our absolute honour and privilege today to take you through what is, quite frankly, one of the most exciting things in Warhammer in, I don't know, ages, as we unbox the launch edition. Sorry, I was looking at it. As we unbox the launch edition for the launch box for the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Now, I can see the chat is filling up rapidly. Any moment now, we are going to kick this thing off with, quite frankly, one of the best videos you're going to see. So if you've got a friend who is, you know, maybe you're in a Discord calling your hobby mates in, or you've got your friends on a Facebook group or whatever, better let them know that we are about to start the show properly.
To give about 30 seconds, I think, Adam, and then we'll press play on our first video. Honestly, the first video is super cool, guys. You're going to absolutely love it. I think it's, as Adam says, I think it's one of my favorite videos we've ever made. It's spine-tinglingly cool.
All right. Well, in that case, I will do a bit more preamble, and then we're in. Wherever you are in the world, it has been a delight for you to join us. If you want to ask questions during the show, we'll do our best to answer them. But there is already 18,000 of you, so please put a big capital question in front of your what you'd like to ask, and we'll do our best to cover it off. We are going to be talking specifically about this this new edition of Age of Sigmar and the Dominion box. So if you want to ask me about something truly unusual, I might not be able to cover you. I can see some of my personal friends in the chat, so a shout out to all of you great people. Right, why don't we begin this preview show with something awesome.
Remember why we fight. Chaos won. The Dark Gods broke us. Demons and blood-pledged warriors wrought ruin and left only ash and bone in their wake. The mortal realms, so hard won, were lost. In the face of such defeat, the armor of mortals could not hold. Pride, greed, ambition tore apart the alliance the God King had built among the races. It is well, then, that we are not mortal. Forged in celestial storm, we are the chosen of Sigmar. We are hope manifest, and where we stand, there will be light in the darkness. No matter the cost. Not the end. Our war is eternal. And so, we must remember. Remember why we fight!
We are back, we are still live, and that was the official cinematic trailer for Warhammer Age of Sigmar's 3rd edition. And it's blown my socks off, Eddie, I don't know about you.
It's just an incredibly cool piece of footage, isn't it? I think it's always amazing to see Warhammer miniatures and the worlds and the realms brought to life. And I don't think we've ever seen the Mortal Realms brought to life in quite such vivid, awesome detail. I think so many cool things about that trailer. There's an awful lot of stuff in there that obviously hints at some of the contents in that new box set. So I think we can dive into some of it and have a little look through at some of the screens from the trailer before we open the box set proper. But I think it starts off with this very kind of atmospheric, thematic scene with the Lord walking down the corridor. There's pieces of artwork that are familiar to lots of people who've been looking through the.
It was really fun. It was really fun seeing the chat call out the things that they recognise as well, and I think that kickstarted the speculation as this Stormcast hero sort of stomps down this amazing sort of processional in Sigmaron. Amazing.
Yeah, so these kind of pictures representing the great battles and scenes and achievements or defeats of the Stormcast throughout the years, which obviously be very familiar to people who've been following the story, but a nice little kind of nod and introduction. If you're new to Warhammer Age of Sigmar, a nice little kind of like, here's a quick catch-up with some pictures. But yeah, very, very cool start. And I think this is your favourite scene in the whole...
It absolutely is. Yeah, so I had the privilege of seeing this for the first time a few days ago, and I cannot get over how cool this piece of art is. It brings to life Sigmar's sort of kingdom within the realm of Azir, and I love it. It just looks so cool. This enormous bridge, you can see his silhouette as he stomps across, just everything I could possibly want out of the realm of heavens and Sigmaron, the enormous fortress palace of Sigmar himself.
And you get a kind of sense of scale of it, don't you? Because I think we've talked a lot about the realm of heavens in the past, and it's been described a few times. And there's a few pieces of artwork, but I don't think anything has quite captured the full spectacle and majesty of the Sigmarabulum and the kind of scale of Azir before. This huge city, and it's like on a scale larger than almost anything else we've seen in the realms.
Yeah, and then I think. If I'm not mistaken with what the next picture is, you get the sense of the sort of incredible immortal power of these the Stormcast, you know, the bits where the lightning sort of emanates from his eyes, and then you see lightning as he grasps the weapons that are handed to him by the warriors around him. Yeah, just look at this scene. You know, they're all preparing to strike down on the lightning itself and into the mortal realms.
And I think on the left there, I think we haven't seen those kind of Stormcasts before. There's a new type of Stormcast there with a halberd. I think that's something we've not seen. And we have seen the guy on the right. That's an Annihilator. We know that, which is one of the new Paladin level Stormcasts, so the heavy hitters. And we saw in the trailer itself just how hard they hit. A few of those enemies went flying, didn't they? When they got hit by the helmet.
Absolutely. And it just creates this great image, doesn't it? This fantastic concept of the Stormcast sort of readying for their attacks down into the mortal realms. And obviously they're getting ready to strike down and rescue a city of Sigmar, which is in quite the dire straits.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, right? Okay, so this is what I came for. So we got our first real look. We got our first real look in this trailer at the bad guys, the antagonist from the new edition. So I think we can. We haven't seen this before. This appears to be a new kind of faction. I think a few people were calling out hobgoblins or orcs and things, and I think there's a few hints and nods. You're not far wrong on a few of those calls, and we'll look at this faction in a little bit more detail very, very soon. And then this is the Lord there, kind of coming out of the lightning itself. I love that bit in the trailer where the lightning hits. We've never seen Stormcast like materialize out of the lightning before, have we? But I think they captured it really well in that trailer.
I think the chat is divided on whether or not the Stormcast are truly the good guys, which is quite fun.
Well, they clearly are. Look at them; they're showing up. I mean, the destruction forces work very hard to kind of secure a victory, and then out of nowhere, the Stormcast just pop up and steal it from them.
If you look carefully, it's well worth a rewatch, and the video will be available on the Warhammer community website, if not by now, certainly in a little while. And in the background, as the city's burning, you can see Duardin and so on being stabbed by the enemies.
Yeah, there's a few elves and humans and Duardin there. All right, there's another glimpse there at some of the forces of destruction. So this guy is really interesting because this is obviously a green skin of some sort, but a green skin with a fairly hefty looking ranged weapon, which is very interesting for green skin, because most of the time about the best thing you can do for ranged weapon if you're a green skin player at the moment is a grot with a short bow, which doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but this is definitely a crossbow that can punch through Stormcast armor, as we saw delivered very effectively in the trailer. So a very different angle there for the forces of destruction.
not a good day to be wandering around without a shield, I think. And then,
Right.
well, I'll let you, Eddie. This is your favourite bit, I imagine.
This is the money shot, isn't it? So you've got the Lord of the Forces of Destruction there on the back of some kind of massive beast. We can see that huge shield. There's a lot of stuff going on in this, and we'll obviously have a look at this in more detail and some of the miniatures themselves. But we can see already kind of hints at that kind of ancient-looking, gnarled, almost kind of squiggish-looking shield, which is a little bit of a nod and a wink to some of your really, really classic Warhammer fantasy orcs. Really, if you go back long enough, that was a kind of staple of your orc shields, but kind of really taken to the nth degree. And then the creature that he's riding, I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like that before. So it could be a brand new monster of some sort. Very cool.
I love it. And there we are. I think that was a well worthwhile little tour through the cinematic trailer for the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And as I said, you'll be able to watch it to your heart's content on warhammercommunity.com, or I imagine YouTube will probably find its way up there. But whichever, make sure you have a good pause, particularly in the bits where there's things happening in the background when you see the city burning. It's pretty cool.
It's a really, really well put together trailer. There's loads of little nuggets and details and things. So by all means, dive into it, pause it. There's loads of cool little details that will reward you for rewatching and watching through.
Yeah, so anything else you want to cover off about that awesome cinematic trailer, Eddie?
Well, I think I'd be curious to know what the people in the chat thought their favourite bit was. If anyone's got a particular moment that they were like, I love that bit, or I think we were talking about a little bit before which our favourite bits were. I particularly like, obviously I like it when the Forces of Destruction take down that Imperial, that Stormcast and knock him down a peg or two. That was obviously the best bit. But the particular moment I think that stood out for me is the bit where the Annihilator just punches his shield into one of those onrushing orcs, and he just kind of like caves in half under him. That's what a mortal wound looks like, I think.
Yeah, you're almost certainly right. I mean, for me, it's it's either the Stormcast hero walking across the bridge, or it's when he grasps the weapons and you see the lightning wreathe his hands. Lots of people are saying things like, show us the models. We will, don't worry, but we'll do it in our own time. I might reset the clock.
It'd be pretty cool if we had a box to crack open.
So, somebody says, please, what are the greenskins? I couldn't agree more. Maybe we'll tell you all about it. I feel like the chat feel like we're teasing them, and that's definitely
we might be teasing a little. I mean, I think we're teasing in the coolest possible way with like an absolutely incredible trailer, but we can, I think, without too much more beating around the proverbial bush, probably dive in and show some toy soldiers.
All right, well, I tell you what, Robot Dracoline says, I like the upcoming bit where you actually show models. Well,
that's fair.
Why don't we play the next video and see what happens? I mean, it's an amazing looking box set, isn't it?
I think probably not wrong to say one of the best Warhammer box sets of any description ever to come out of the Warhammer studio. An absolutely incredible box set of miniatures, I think. But either side it is spectacular. I think we're going to start off by diving into the Stormcasts in a bit more detail, but we will quickly come on to what I consider to be the better half. But I think, Adam, you'll be probably the other opinion.
Yeah, I'm definitely all in on the Stormcast. And we've seen a few of these before when we did Warhammer Fest. So Indrasta, the Celestial Spear, will be familiar to you if you follow along on each of our previous shows. She is an incredible centerpiece model for a Stormcast Eternal army and has a really interesting backstory, right, Eddie?
Yes, she does. She is Sigmar's beast killer, basically. So he sends her off to try and find monsters and take them out. So we know a little bit about her already. She's basically a similar sort of level to something like the Celestant Prime, and kind of the interesting thing that she sets up as well is this idea that like Sigmar has several of these kind of champions who have slightly different roles within his forces, but she can put into any storm host. You can paint her whatever color you want. She is like a powerful kind of top tier level character in the Mortal Realms, and it's just really cool that such an awesome centerpiece kit comes in the launch box set for the game as well. She's one of your best Stormcast characters in the whole army, and she comes in this box, which is pretty cool. But we've seen her before, so let's move on and see what else.
This is the poster hero from the cinematic trailer, a Lord Imperatant with his very own Gryph-hound, and you get the option of heads. I'm stoked for this guy. I love Stormcast Eternal Heroes. I've painted pretty much one of every one we've done so far, and I can't wait to add this guy to my force. And there's so much to take in. Not only does he have an awesome cloak, not only is he armed with the weapons that would befit the office that he holds, but he also has that fantastic sort of runic plate on his sort of shoulder, which holds his cloak down, and as you can see, it's got that same sort of Dwarden stylized image of Sigmar on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads to love about this miniature. It's just a beautiful character model. I think also comes with a Gryph-hound, and I think anybody who collects Stormcast almost without fail has a soft spot for Gryph-hounds. And this is one of the most fun, I think. He's got a little kind of dangling hammer there on his collar, which I particularly like, and that kind of feather tail sticking out the back. Over the shoulder of the Lord Imperatant as well, you've got a larger kind of Gryph beast. So don't know if we know the story of this, possibly a mount previously that's been slain by his enemies and he's kind of rewarded it, or maybe a beast in the wilds of Azir that he's slain. I'm not quite sure on the backstory.
Just hope the Gryph-hound doesn't think about it too hard and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it might be like a pack thing. Maybe it's like, he killed the biggest one and the rest of them follow him. Or maybe it's, was a parent of a Gryph charger that he rode at one point and the Gryph had. I don't quite know how Gryph things work. Do they grow up to be Gryph chargers? Is that the thing?
I couldn't even begin to leave. He's armed with a Blessed Warhammer and a Stormcaller baton. And his function within the Stormcast armies is that they are essentially the strategists. Think of them as the tacticians, whereas your Lord Celestins are more sort of the frontline killing machines.
Yeah, so and done in the same sort of armor as the other Stormcast that we've seen. So a Knight Arcanum. So this is your spellcaster mage, a really, really cool looking miniature. I think we're divided, Adam, between which head we think is best, but you get both options in the box. I'm a big fan of the kind of bare kind of face mask thing where very little detail but kind of the interesting gem set into the forehead. You quite like the unhelmeted version.
Yeah, I'll take the unhelmeted one for mine, but I've got to admit that they're both great. I think the mask is very sinister. And as you would expect from a Knight Arcanum, they are capable in sort of the magical arts. I believe the word on the street is they're skilled in deadly arcano-meteorological sorceries, capable of turning the storm itself
throwing lightning bolts
into a weapon. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think what I like about the face mask and what I like about the fact that you get a choice is that we know that Stormcasts kind of stretch the full gamut, don't we? From people who are like effectively warrior knights, and you could talk to them and converse with them, and they function like a mortal warrior but with more power. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the ones who have been reforged so many times that their personality and their soul and their essence of what made them human has been kind of drained away during the reforging. And I like the idea that the face mask could hide almost any kind of character behind it. So they literally have no personality to go with it. This might be the best Stormcast model in that box, and that's saying something.
I mean, it's in there for best Stormcast Eternals models of all time, and they are a richly served faction. This is the Knight of Exilor with Banner of Apotheosis, and there's just so much to say. I'm going to leap right in by saying when you look at the reverse angle of this banner, you get the image of an anvil, which is just obviously such a connection to the Anvil of Apotheosis upon which the Stormcast Eternals are themselves forged, and I love it. Banners are the best thing. They make your armies look super rad, and this guy has a super bomb diggity banner. I can't wait.
Yeah. I think I'm right in saying that in the lore, this Banner of Apotheosis actually contains a tiny fragment of the Anvil of Apotheosis itself, and that's where your kind of Sigmarite, which is the made mined from the metal of the destroyed world that was, and kind of forged into the armor that makes the Stormcast the meteoric iron, comes from. So it's like not just a cool banner, but literally bringing some of the magic of the Realm of Heaven with it to the battlefield. I just love the pose on this guy, though. He just looks like he's like nobody's taken that banner off him, are they? Basically.
No, it's fantastic, isn't it? If I dip into my notes, it says the banner itself features Grungni's depiction of Sigmar on its front side, while the reverse features depictions of Grungni's tools and anvil on the reverse. A combined icon of the unified efforts that work together to create the Stormcast Eternals and the Thunderstrike armor. Sign me up. What's next? Oh, okay. So this might be my favourite unit of Stormcast Eternals to date, and I've got one of everything. These are the Stormcast Eternals Praetors. They are a retinue that act as the bodyguards for Stormcast Eternal heroes, and they don't just connect with them as in, like defend them like any bodyguard would, but they connect with their ward on an arcane spiritual level. So as they fight alongside their masters, they become more like them in sort of mannerism, if not in actual form. And as you can see here, you've got 3 in the set, each one in an incredibly cool pose. I'm hype for these guys.
I think any one of these is like as nice as some of the kind of older hero models for Warhammer. Like each one is just an absolutely beautiful kit. I can imagine these being one of those ones that are picked out by painters particularly, because you've got that lovely rich kind of cloak. You've got an opportunity to do some really interesting painting and freehand and stuff with that. You've got the really cool sculptured armor. But what I quite like about the new Stormcast style on a lot of these is you've got a lot of open plates. So if you really, really want to do some show-off painting, you absolutely can. You can put all sorts of patterns and stuff onto them. Or if you just wanted to paint them gold and cover them with a wash and get them on the table, they'd look very, very cool very quickly.
Yeah, and these guys have Soul Guard halberds, and obviously they're wearing the Thunderstrike armor, which is so important in this grim new era. Here are the big boys then, the Stormcast Eternal Annihilators, with just the most imposing silhouette going, aren't they, really?
They look absolutely amazing. I mean, I think the paladins for the Stormcast, all of the paladins, like your Retributors and stuff, already look like they could wade through a wall, don't they? But these guys have like stepped it up a notch. Like the size of these guys, the shoulder pads, the kind of intimidating presence of them. And look at how thick the legs on these guys are. They just look like nothing is going to stop them. And that's very much how they play as well. Like this is the paladin unit that just takes a beating. So they've got incredibly good saves. And when they land and when they hit, they cause mortal wounds when they charge into stuff, and you could see that in the trailer. As you saw a couple of those guys slam into the orcs.
He folds the Orruk over, doesn't he?
Walk through the enemy battle line. So these are a really, really fun unit, both in terms of like the miniature itself, but also in terms of how they play. I love that the shield design there has got that kind of rune embedded into the center of the shield. What I like about the rest of it is it almost looks like untreated meteoric iron, doesn't it? You've got the kind of bolts of lightning crackling through the kind of it looks almost like raw star metal. You can imagine just getting like an absolute lump of metal and being like, that'll do, nothing's getting through that, and just putting it in the middle of a shield, and then it's going to smash anything it hits, but also it's going to nothing's going to get through it.
Yeah, the Annihilator Prime looks particularly savage as well, doesn't he? He's just incredible.
Look at the lion breastplate on that guy looks amazing. Such a kind of thematic and cool model. The other two on either side look great, but the Prime, particularly cool breastplate on him, and knee pads. I love the little Prime details you get on the unit leaders for Stormcast.
Oh, they're so good.
Lions and kind of eagles and various other kind of mythical creatures.
We've gone over, but I wanted to give a shout out. Their weapons are called meteoric hammers, and I'm like, it conjures the right image, doesn't it? As these guys just absolutely pulverize people. So now on the screen, Stormcast Eternals Vindictors. I've been practicing all week saying their name right, which might seem like an easy name when you think about Vindictor, but for me, it's been a challenge. So there are 10 in total. You have 5 on this shot, and then the next shot, you're going to see the other 5. And these are a battle line unit for the Stormcast Eternals. They are armed with, he says, scrolling through his notes as fast as he can, they are armed with Thunderstrike armor. They're carrying massive shields, and they've got storm spears. And you can think of these as the spiky bulwark, which you will use to dominate the battlefield and poke massive holes in the enemy and just get it done. I'm a huge fan of battle line units. I've got so many Liberators painted, it's really quite ridiculous, and I'm going to add these guys straight into it.
They look really nice. A few things worth saying about this kit is you get a mix of male and female bodies in there as well, which is really cool. So I think both of them look incredibly intimidating and cool, but you've got a few different kind of body shapes mixed in amongst the unit, which gives you a bit more variety in there as well. You've also got a great choice of heads in the box as well. So if you want to have every single one of your Stormcasts with their helmet on, you absolutely can. If you want to make them up with a few helmets off to mix in amongst them, you can as well. And there's a great variety of different heads in the unhelmeted versions as well. So the idea with the Stormcast, all of the different Storm hosts, is that they're pulled from warriors from all across the mortal realms. So you've got people from like savage tribes, you've got people who used to be like knights protecting cities, you've got people who used to be kind of warrior nomads, you've got people from every corner and every realm, all kind of mixed together and reforged and kind of bonded in the brotherhood of Stormcast Eternals, but still with that kind of legacy of their warrior past. So if you want to kind of hint at some of that, you absolutely can. Or if you just want to put all the helmets on, paint them gold, and get them on the table real quick, they're going to look super cool too. So you can do that.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said, are there heads for the female models in there? They absolutely are. There's a helmeted and an unhelmeted head, I believe, for each of the models in that unit, which is quite exciting. Well, I mean, we could stop here, and the chat wouldn't at all lynch us for not showing them the other things, right?
I think I might lynch you, Adam, if you didn't. If you just Stormcast and not the awesome stuff on the other side of the box.
Well, why don't we progress over?
Entry number 41. I've had a breakthrough. The beasts made it past the guard, and many were taken. A tragedy, but a fortunate one. A knife left behind. Thinner this time, not at all like the ones in the books. Designed to pierce armor, perhaps, but of what? Not the usual Orruk approach either. Barely even shouted. Diversions, far more cunning than before. Something is brewing in the swamps, I'm sure of it. Alas, if my theories are correct, then we are in more trouble than we know.
If you had told 10-year-old Adam when he got into the Warhammer hobby that we would see models that have this much amazing detail on them in plastic, I would never have believed you. And yet here we are with an incredible new faction or army of Orruks in the other half of our Dominion box. Should we begin here, Eddie?
Yeah, absolutely. So I absolutely love these miniatures. They tick absolutely every box I want from a Destruction Force. So I think these are going to be my army for the new edition. These are the Kruleboyz, the Orruk Kruleboyz, and they are a combination of Orruks, which are a kind of slightly more gangly breed of Orruks from the swamp, but they fight dirty, they fight cunning. If you imagine that in the kind of wider pantheon of orcs, you've got the kind of Iron Jaws on the one hand, which are all very brutal with a little bit of cunning. They're kind of Gork's boys. These are very much Mork's boys. These are the cunning but still brutal orcs on the other end. So they don't fight fair. They fight from the shadows. They stab you in the back. They shoot you from far away. They'll fight dirty with evil magic tricks and stuff. And they're led by this guy, a killer boss on a great gnash tooth. This is still a fairly hefty looking orc, but it's certainly not quite as beefy as some of the Iron Jaws ones, but he makes up for that by riding around on a great gnash tooth, which is an enormous, great swamp-dwelling thing. We were trying to decide what it most resembled.
I was going for it's the evil crossbreed of a honey badger and a naked mole rat, but with some sort of Orruk magic thrown in.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Tasmanian devil in there. Looks like someone shaved a rabid weasel, doesn't it? And kind of grown it to some horrible size. But a horrible, like swamp-dwelling monster. We saw it in action in the trailer, and give you a sense of quite how hard it's going to hit. It's going to rip Stormcast characters to pieces when it lands. The boss itself there is the kind of typical of what you can expect from a Kruleboy boss. He's got a lot of kind of armor. A lot of it is kind of very wickedly cruel, so it's kind of spiked. There's a lot of flayed skin on the model. They all of the Kruleboyz, or a lot of them, have these kind of shields, and what these represent are either kind of their kind of deities or themselves, or even for some of them they kind of try and copy Kragnos, the kind of great big god of destruction.
Which is a hilarious concept, since they've never seen him. They're just, what might he look like?
They think Kragnos is the best thing ever, and a lot of their shields are kind of designed to look like him, but a lot of them have never seen Kragnos, so they just sort of guess what they reckon he'll look like. A few of them are also kind of based on maybe themselves or their own creatures and things, but he has the biggest, most impressive shield of the bunch because he's the boss.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying with greenskins, as ever, might makes right, and so this is the mightiest, or the killer bosses are the mightiest of the Kruleboyz, and he's armed with, I had it up on my screen just moments ago because I'm terrible for this, but he's armed with what's called a jagged boss sticker, and then he's obviously his mount is also super deadly, so you can expect on a turn in which he's charged into combat, he is going to put paid to some serious stuff. He's not the only character, not by any stretch, in this set for the Kruleboyz though, and here we have the Swamp Caller Shaman and his attendant Potgrot, when we got quite excited about this one earlier on, Eddie.
Yeah, the Potgrot is a particularly characterful little chap, isn't he? So we'll start with the Swamp Caller Shaman, and then we'll come to the Potgrot in a second. So, like all Orruks, there are those of them who are blessed with magical powers, and they can hear the voice of Mork in their head. This guy does a few little tricks for the faction. So he obviously gives you a little bit of magical support, but he's particularly good at concocting potions and things. So he can kind of create elixirs and things that you can give to your nearby units. To give them extra abilities, or you can use him to kind of summon swamps, summon mist and swamps and kind of things to give you some tactical edges on the battlefield. Like all of the Kruleboyz, they don't fight fair, and one of the ways they don't fight fair is that they bring the kind of mists and unpleasantness of the swamp with them wherever they fight and kind of attack you from the murk.
Yeah, so the chat is very high on the Potgrot at the moment, and with good reason. I just want to point out a couple of the really interesting design features on this model, which you might otherwise miss. The one is that he's got a gargant skull on his back, wearing it as like some weird armored cloak thing. But my favourite thing is, if you look at the top of his staff pole, that is a symbolic representation of the Hand of Mork, and it gives you that connection to the half of the sort of Orruk pantheon that they're perhaps more concerned with.
Yeah, I think all of the Kruleboyz definitely have more to do with Mork than to do with Gork, although they probably couldn't tell them apart anyway, so there's a little bit of brutal there.
Yeah, so if the chat thought that the Potgrot was the thing that was going to steal the show, I present to them its rival in the killer boss with attendant Stabgrot. So this is a killer boss on foot. It's potentially the same premise as the killer boss on the enormous beast. However, this one's on foot, and one of his feet is actually on the chest of a soon-to-be-dead, if not already so, Stormcast Eternal. But he is joined by my favourite thing in the Kruleboyz horde, which is a Stabgrot. I mean, how cool is it? It's very cool. That's how cool.
So a Stabgrot, what I love about little Stabgrot is he's clearly tried to kit himself out so he looks like a tiny version of the killer boss to kind of gain some of his kudos and power, perhaps. And effectively, in game terms, what he does is he runs around behind the killer boss, and then whenever your opponent is distracted, he kind of quickly stabs them with his little tiny stabber. Although occasionally you can just kind of boot him in front of something. If there's a killing blow intended for the kill boss, you can kind of hold up the little guy. So
the best thing. The best thing is the chat's like would die to protect the Stabgrot, and it's like don't ever talk to me or my child again. But the best thing is because it's all sort of Orruk culture, he'll just kick him in front of anybody.
He's very attached to him right up until the point where he isn't. Yeah. But a very cool shield on these guys as well. I think one of the things I think you pointed out is that shield on the Stabgrot is actually a shoulder plate from an Orruk, which he's managed to steal and kind of fashion into his own little shield, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just goes to show the sort of wicked design cues that the Warhammer miniatures designers are using. There's also an option, you can give him a great big swingy bomby knocker, that's not the technical name, or his honking great big shield, either way. And why on earth wouldn't you?
I like the shield. I like the shield so much. They've got such character, haven't they? But you have got a way to make him more offensive if you'd want. Right, I think this guy might be my favourite model from the Kruleboyz in the set. This is a Merknob with Belcher banner. So
Belcher banner, Eddie. It's a great name.
Belcher, it's a great name, isn't it? So basically, what this guy's got is a banner, and you can see on the banner there's this tongue hanging down. And what they guys do is they sneak into the swamps and they find these great big horrible reptilian lizard things that kind of belch smoke and gas and stuff. And they kill them and they chop off their tongue and they stick them inside a banner. And the tongue keeps kind of emitting swamp gas for months and months and months after they've stuck it in the banner. So when this guy carries it round, he kind of brings with him the kind of fog and murk and mist of the swamps wherever he goes. Another way of their kind of fighting dirty thing. Another really nice thing about this is that the banner itself represents the kind of totem hierarchy of the Kruleboyz and their kind of pantheon. So at the top of it, you've got the depiction of Kragnos. Again, they might never have seen Kragnos, but they've given it a good go. He's got kind of horns and he's got like a big red head at the top. And then underneath him, you've got the symbol for the orcs themselves.
The Urruks, yep.
And then right at the bottom, you've got the Grots. Who are underneath all of that, and then hanging on for good measure are the severed heads of a few enemies who, just to remind anybody who's not in the Pantheon of Destruction who the boss is.
Every now and again, the chat delivers something that is truly comedy gold. And one green wizard says, "Okay, this guy got the worst job of the lot. Here, Joe, you get to carry the tongue stick again." I love it. I really do love that connection from sort of the sort of primal deities that they worship with Kragnos, and then through the Urruks, and then the Hobgrots with the teeny tiny little what would you call it, disc, I guess, at the bottom of the banner. Right, but it's not all heroes, although that would be awesome, in the set. They are also joined by a number of Orruk units. These are the Man Skewer Bolt Boys, and you saw just how horrendous these can be in that cinematic trailer as one of these shot the Lord Imperator right in the chest, I guess. What are these like on the battlefield, Eddie?
Yeah, so these are Man Skewer Bolt Boys, and they are a very different thing for Orruks than we've seen before. Most of the time, Orruks like to kind of charge in and do the fighting up close and personal. There are a few within Orruk culture who like to fire from the back of the battlefield and play a little bit dirty. What these guys basically do is they pick off weak targets or targets of opportunity, soften up some stuff ahead of the rest of your Kruleboyz heading into combat. Your basic Kruleboyz maybe don't hit quite as hard as something like an Iron Jaw, but they make up for it with softening up the elements of the enemy army ahead of time. Things like that Lord Imperator who was just standing around, looking like a big massive lightning bolt. So that's what you get if you stand out in front of some Kruleboyz. You get shot by Man Skewer Bolt Boys. Yeah.
Now one of the things that I quite like about this is that the cinematic trailer connects quite nicely to the rules that have been produced by the amazing guys in the Warhammer studio. These can be used in one or two ways. They can either do hasty shots, which are quicker and a little bit less, considered, or if they don't move, you can do an aimed shot, which does mortal wounds instead. And I think that's what our poor Lord Imperator was on the receiving end of.
Yeah, if you watch the trailer, while he's fighting the kill boss, he's also getting hit by 2 or 3 more of those bolts. So he's taken about 6 or 7 mortal wounds by the time that he decides to eventually dissipate into a bolt of lightning, which is probably fair. That's kind of what happens. Right, so these are the Gut Rippers. This is your battle line unit of Kruleboyz, and this is basically a unit of Orruks with scary shields and spears. So that on the face of it is your kind of standard battle line. They've got a few tricks up their sleeve, and there's a few nice little touches in a unit that make them particularly fun. One of the things that's interesting about them is the way that they fight. Basically, they don't just run in and stab. They kind of taunt their enemy first. They're particularly cruel and savage, so they'll run up and they'll kind of use their shields to intimidate their foes. They'll pull faces. They'll throw curses and things at their enemies first. And a lot of their shields are actually designed to match the Orruk who's carrying it. So if you look on my screen, you've got the one that's got an eye patch. His shield also has an eye patch because it's kind of modeled after him. So if you imagine these guys are going to run up to the front of the enemy battle line, they're going to bang on their shields, they're going to make a lot of noise, they're going to taunt the enemy, and then probably they're going to get stabbed in the back by the the Grots or something who are sneaking around behind them before the Urruks charge in.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody in the chat says, "Whoa, oh, right, sneaky like." Yeah, these guys are emerging from the bomb.
They're still wild.
Yeah, I reckon you get a good one out of it. I just love the idea of sort of a jostling shield wall of leering faces as they sort of prepare to bring home their charge. And of course, they're not cool. Sorry, go on, Eddie.
No, carry on.
Well, so they're not the only infantry unit available. The Hobgrot Slitters are joining the fray as part of the Dominion box set. These are my favourite things after the Stabgrot in the Kruleboyz side of the box. These guys are very familiar in terms of the design cues to some things that we maybe know from a world that was.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things they bring not only to the army in terms of what they add to it, but also to the lore of the Kruleboyz. Gaming perspective, this is basically your chaff skirmish unit. So they're not as powerful as Orruks, but you can use them to take objectives, to screen things. Anybody who plays Warhammer Age of Sigmar knows that you basically need some units whose job it is to die, so your other units don't have to. So they can stand on the things that are important, and they can get charged by stuff that you don't want other stuff to get charged by, that sort of thing. But they have a few tricks up their sleeve, so they're all carrying. You can see that they've got like little grenade things, which are basically very simple. Explosive devices that they can hurl at their enemies. So they're not without defenses, but they're certainly not going to win any fights one-on-one, but ganging up, they might be able to take down a couple of Stormcast between them. But from a lore perspective, they do an interesting thing, because these guys are the intermediaries in the kind of weird destruction economy between the Kruleboyz and some darker masters that the Hobgrots have elsewhere. And they trade captives that the Orruks managed to capture on their raids in the Mortal Realms in exchange for iron and weaponry to darker masters they have elsewhere in the realms. So that's a fun little kind of nod to the wider ecosystem, I suppose, of the Age of Sigmar.
I saw Raph in person for the first time in a while this week, and he and I were talking about the Hobgrots, and he was super excited by that little nugget of information. Their armor is a slightly different style. They've got these, I can't remember the name of the grenades, what they're called, scrap grenades, which are something, not typical of the Orruk clans, and it links towards this unusual connection, maybe something very familiar from the world that was. And I love it.
You can see that they've got better armor than most of the Orruks have as well. So even though that they the rest of their weaponry is very much kind of makeshift, isn't it? They've got little shivs and they haven't got much in the way of clothing, or maybe that's how they like it. But their armor is slightly better made and manufactured than the stuff that a lot of the Kruleboyz are wearing.
Yep,
and you get 20 of those guys in a box as well. So it's not just one squad of 10 of those. You get two lots of them. And here's the full box set laid out in all of its glory, and it is an absolutely incredible set of miniatures.
Yeah, it's a stonking set, isn't it? So you've got 60 Citadel miniatures in total within the box, as well as you'll have a full core book. You've got data cards for all of your units, and then you've got a start here War and Amberstone watch book, which you were telling me a little bit about before we began, Eddie.
Yeah, so this is basically like the reason these two factions are fighting. Obviously, for a lot of people, this box set is the way to dive into the new edition of Age of Sigmar, and it's a great way to start two different armies. But it's also like a battle in a box, if you want it to be. And War at the Amberstone Watch gives you a little bit of the lore in the background about what's going on, why these two factions are fighting. And there's a lot of things going on in the Mortal Realms new edition that have kind of set up a lot of new battlefields. So there's this concept of lots of the forces of Sigmar kind of venturing out into unexplored portions of the Mortal Realms to find new places to create cities. And what that obviously does is the Mortal Realms are full of horrible, horrible things, not least of which being the Kruleboyz. And a lot of these settlements get attacked, and the Stormcasts are kind of on a constant war footing to kind of drive back the forces of destruction, of chaos, of death, but particularly destruction, especially in the realm of beasts with the rise of Kragnos, that keep attacking these little settlements. And War at the Amberstone Watch is one of those examples, but it's typical of the wider battles that are happening all across the Mortal Realms.
Fantastic. Let's take a look at the core book itself. The core book that comes inside Dominion is a special cover, which you see here. It has Indrasta sort of, I guess, striking down, literally it appears on a bolt of lightning through just hordes of wibbly tentacle demon things, and this is the special cover that comes on the core book that you'll find inside Dominion. It will be followed later by a standard release version, which will have a different cover.
Yeah, a really cool book. It's a beautiful book. There's loads of this stuff in it. So we have a few other bits and bobs to talk to you about, but if you are looking for miniatures, stick around, please, because the Dominion box set is not the only miniatures that we're going to show you today. So we have a few hints, some of the future stuff that Orcs and Stormcast Eternals will get. But before we dive into that, we have a few other bits and bobs to talk to you about first, specifically about the new edition as a whole.
Yes, so... he says, and then turns to his notes because he's very excited. We've shown the book. I think it's time to do the unboxing cam, Eddie.
Let's do the unboxing cam. Who doesn't love the
I
unboxing cam?
apologise in advance, guys, if this gets wobbly and strange, because I'm going to simultaneously try and be in shot, be unboxing, and then my poor old dog was very confused today when I went downstairs and stole his grooming table. Mrs. Troke is not in the house, so nobody could stop me. Although if we could not mention to her that I stapled this mat to it, that would be for the best.
I'm going to unbox mine at the same time, I think, and I'm just going to enjoy that new box smell for a little bit.
See, a lot of people get very excited about the new box and new book smell. I don't object to it, but it's certainly never been a thing for me. So here we are. I'm lifting the lid.
I think you're just wrong, Adam. The new box smell is like one of the top 5 things about the new box.
Well, I try and make the new box sound. That's the thing I like to do.
It smells great. For those of you who appreciate,
it's so heavy.
Those of you who appreciate new box smell, it does smell. It smells great. It smells great.
Ooh, it's the little things sometimes. They've gone for the black inline as well. I like it. So you have. This is really to protect the contents of the box, but you've got a really nice piece of artwork on some card, and then you are in Sprue City. Can everybody see this all right? Yeah, so I've got hobgrots coming out of my ears. I'm going to put these to the side. I need to find somebody in the office or something who wants to trade their other Urruks for more hobgrots, because I want hobgrot again. Love it. So I've got the Vindictors, 2 frames of Vindictors. It's very exciting.
Yeah, so there's a hell of a lot of detail on these miniatures. There's loads and loads of cool little bits. I think I'm just looking through them now. I think obviously these are beautiful miniatures. I think all of the stuff the studio's been putting out recently is certainly has been. They are push fit, so if you didn't want to glue them, it looks like you could probably put the vast majority of these together without the need for glue, which is pretty cool. Or if you want to glue them and make sure that none of the heads ever fall off, that's option 2. There are quite a lot of options in the box set for push fit kit as well. So you do have options for heads and for unhelmeted heads. So it looks like for most of the Stormcast.
Yeah, so I believe each of the Vindictors certainly has an option of 2 heads. Eddie, the chat is asking quite sort of urgently, what's the availability on this? Now, you've got the info on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this box set will be available while stocks last. It will be available to pre-order in the month of June. We don't have the exact date for you today, but it will be available to pre-order in June. We have made an awful lot of this box, but if you do want to get yourself a copy, it will definitely be worth pre-ordering it when the time comes. We are confident we've made an awful lot of them, but it will be an available while stocks last box.
So the chat says, get them close if you want to see the details. So I have this, and what I thought I could do is maybe lift them up and put them on that, and it might get a clearer picture. So here we have the Praetors, which are my personal favourites. I want to see what we've got for head options for a start. I'm quite excited. So we've got 1, 2, 3 helmeted heads and 4 helmeted heads. Oh, that means you can do one not as a prime if you want to. Okay, and then it looks like you've got an unhelmeted head potentially for at least 2 of them. That's pretty cool. You've also got these nice little, it's the small things in life sometimes that delight this particular trope. And you've got all these little, I'll point to one, little plugs that you can push into the bases, the little slots on the bases. They've got like skulls and other bits and pieces on them. That's really nice.
I think one of the things that I'm really enjoying about the kits actually at the moment, just looking through them, is there is like a theme throughout the whole set, which is this kind of swamp setting. So lots of the kits have like little reeds or little kind of swampy bases, and certainly the ones with the bigger, more impressive bases have kind of hanging tendrils of swampy plant life and things dangling down from the ruined masonry. And it's clear that at some point this battlefield had been perhaps a kind of rich city or a kind of little outpost or something, and in the mists of time it's kind of overgrown by the swamp and kind of slowly started to sink into the mire, which is quite fun.
Yeah, it certainly has that sort of subsidence feel to it. Now, the frame I've got out here now, this has got the Knight Arcanum on one side, and then it's got the Killer Boss with Stabgrot on the other side. So they're sort of joined on one frame. I'm guessing by the look of that they're probably going to both be on 40 mil bases, but maybe the Killer Boss might be a 50. He's got quite a large scenic base piece. We have the is it the Swamp Caller Shaman and the Lord Imperatant on this one. It's amazing. One of the things that never ceases to absolutely blow my mind, I don't know if you can get a decent look at this, guys, is the pieces that the Warhammer design team make these models into. this halo piece here and just how it connects to the shoulder of the Lord Imperator is amazing. The Gryph-hound is on the same frame as him, so it's his attendant creature. I'm sort of busting out all these frames now.
There's a lot of sprues in here. I'm just kind
It really is, yeah.
It's more than I expected.
2/3 of the way through, I would say, judging by it. So these are your... Oh, I've jostled myself too much and I've gone out of focus. Raffle helped me reset it and return the world to some sort of order. In the meantime, I'll just be excited.
I'm going to quickly crack open the core book, I think, and have a look at some of the...
I haven't even worked my way through the plastic yet.
I'm going to get to it. I'm going to let you do the plastic, and I'm going to have a look at the core book and see if I can call out some details. So, back of the core book says, this is a time of turmoil, this is an era of war, this is the Age of Sigmar. And the core book is exclusive to this set as well. So the treatment on the cover of the core book is exclusive. The core book will be available separately, but will have a slightly different cover. So if you do pick up a copy of Dominion, it'll be the only way to get this particular version of the core book. But it's a really lovely looking book, and it also smells really good. It's got like a new book smell to it as well. For those of you who care about such things.
Indrasta comes on the same frame as the Knight Vexillor and the Annihilators, by the look of it, which makes me think that this will be the first place you can get her, but not necessarily the only. I'm very excited. I love the shields, man. I got to admit, they are amazing. And I like it when all the little back details are put on as well, although I'm not one of these people who builds things in sub-assemblies. Whack it all together, throw paint in it, hope it works. That is my strategy for life. You have another divider here. It is exactly the same as the other one. Oh, I like how that looks. That's really good. So we've got these two little flaps, which have got an assortment of bases nestled away underneath them. I'm going to whip out all the bases now. So you have one great big bag of bases. This is a mixture of, standard 25mm slotters. You've got some 40s in there with the double slots. And then you've got... What's that going to be? A 60? Probably even says on the back. I don't know. 60mm. And then this is going to be for the killer boss riding his horrendous monster. And we've got a little pack which contains all the... It feels very lucky to be doing this. So we've got Dominion, the instruction guide, no less. So if you're like me and a bit of a numpty when it comes to putting models together, you can... sink your teeth into this. Somebody was asking me loads of questions about bases. Should you be listening still, you have 22 25mm bases, 14 32mm bases, 22 40mm bases, one 65, and one 105mm oval. So if you were excited about base sizes, not me, but if you are,
some people really like base sizes.
It's a commonly asked question in the chat, and I don't blame them. And then here we have the start here, Amber Stone Watch, and it's got some narrative. It looks like it's got loads of lore detail on all the characters and creatures inside of it. I might turn the light off on that, see if that gives you a better picture. I don't know if that helps or not. Yep, fantastic. Doesn't contain the rules because they're all on these, which is a lovely set of cards. I'm just going to rip the paper. Don't do it, Adam. Don't do it. Do it. There we go. So we've got sort of cards for all of the characters and creatures and stuff within there. Now, if you were more of a rules guy than me when it comes to Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you could probably pounce right into this and tell you what's awesome. I'm just going to go straight through because I want to know what a meteoric hammer does for an Annihilator. Exclusive right now. Oh yeah, all right. So 3 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, -1 rend, and 2 damage. That is quite awesome. I'm going to have a proper read of those later. Sorry, off camera, guys. And then, the surprisingly massive core book, which how do I open
I've
that
cracked this open myself, and it's 360 pages, so it's a hefty tome. Some really lovely artwork in this as well. You probably can't see it on my screen, but there's a lot of kind of really luscious double-page spread artwork in there, which is really nice. Lots of kind of lovely photography as well. I think we were saying some of the photography in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar is some of the best that the studio has ever created.
There's a shot we'll show you later on in this stream, actually, which is put together by the Warhammer studio, and I'll tell you what, you've just never seen better miniatures photography. I love it. This book is massive. It's just absolutely packed. I know the Warhammer Age of Sigmar team in particular has really focused on sort of breathing more depth into the setting for the Mortal Realms. And you're going to, by the look of it, see quite a lot more of that in here. Phil Kelly, not just one of my heroes, but also one of the sort of main guys in the Warhammer studio who works on Warhammer Age of Sigmar, has done an awful lot of work on this new edition. I'm going to slide back into my normal spot now. There we go.
Yeah, we're probably due to kind of roll on at this point, Adam. So we've had a good fun dive into the box, but I think we've got more stuff to show. We've got more stuff to talk about. So there's one more thing just to mention off the back of Dominion, which is that accompanying the box sets available separately, there will be a new novel about Dominion from Darius Hinks, which will give you this kind of story of the stuff we sing in the box set. So this will be the tale of the Stormcast Eternals versus the Kruleboyz. Darius Hinks is a Black Library author with a fine vintage of stories. Particularly enjoyed his Warhammer Fantasy Battle Orion series, for anyone who's read that, but he's done an awful lot of good stuff for all of Warhammer, so there's a good novel on the way to accompany your new edition.
So, I think it's worth saying that we've cracked open our core books, but we haven't really talked in any detail about what's new for the actual edition of the game. Maybe we can get a little bit of help from one of the guys in the Warhammer community team for that.
And then just a cheeky highlight of silver on the very edges of the armour, like that. Perfect.
Nick! It is I, the benevolent and omnipotent Sigmar.
Sigmar himself!
Silence! We have no time for inane mortal babblings. Now tell me, what are you doing?
Well, I'm just painting these new Stormcast Eternals. They're cool and all, but
I said silence. Sigmar does not engage in idle chit-chat. I am here to give you 8 new things about the new Warhammer Age of Sigmar. 1. This is the best rule set you have ever seen. Period. Cleaner, clearer, and more elegant than ever before.
amazing! And I thought they couldn't get any better.
They can, and they have. These are rules you could take home to meet your parents. 2. Your heroes have more to do than ever before. That means more command points and more abilities.
Crikey!
Yes! More chances to show off in front of the troops, thanks to all new heroic actions. 3. Monsters are called that for a reason. And now they can accomplish some properly monstrous things in the charge phase.
Gee whiz, what sort of things do you mean, Sigmar?
You know, stomping, roaring, smashing, monster stuff. 4. Going second doesn't mean you'll be finishing in second place. With more command points to spend if your opponent takes the first turn, you'll have ample time and resources to disrupt their moves.
Does that mean there'll be less downtime?
Silence! Speaking of which, 5. No more watching from the sidelines as your troops take the brunt of the enemy's attack. Use reactive command abilities in every phase of the game to interrupt your opponent and frustrate their plans. 6. Endless spells are back and more vicious than ever, with predatory endless spells now moving in every hero phase. That means double the magical mayhem. 7. Build your army in interesting ways using different core battalions. It's simple, flexible, and you even get some cool new abilities to try out.
Wow, surely there can't be anything else.
Incorrect. I said 8, and I meant it. Sigmar never lies, apart from to Nagash. That guy sucks. 8. Send your army on a Path to Glory campaign and see your cheery little warriors rise from bumbling farmhands to mighty conquerors. Take territory and earn artifacts, spells, and other shiny trinkets.
Praise be to Sigmar! Well, there you have it from the big man himself, You get all of this and some rather swanky miniatures in the new Dominion box, the best Warhammer Age of Sigmar box set we've ever seen.
Right, Nick, gotta go. The mortal realms aren't going to save themselves. The greatest box set ever!
Representations of Sigmar in this video may not be representative of the God King himself. Divine intervention should be neither inferred nor expected. At least some persons in this video are in...
Well, first of all, hats off to Nick Baton from the Warhammer community team for being such a good sport and helping
And Sigmar himself.
and helping potentially Sigmar to deliver 8 amazing things about the new edition. I think my favourite one on that list, considering how much I've enjoyed delving into Crusade, is the talk of all the narrative fun you're going to be able to have with Path to Glory. What about you, Eddie? Which one stands out?
I think certainly talking to the Age of Sigmar team about this, they're particularly excited about the opportunities that narrative can bring to Age of Sigmar. Narrative, as right from the beginning of Age of Sigmar, has been a really important part of how that's been presented and how you can play it. I think I'm quite excited about Monsters and Heroes having a bigger part in the game. In terms of having to be able to do more stuff, because I think monsters look awesome, and I think every armies that are full of monsters always look really cool on the battlefield. And then also the idea of endless spells, predatory endless spells, being able to do more cooler stuff. I haven't used much in the way of predatory endless spells yet. There's always seemed to be something slightly better for the points in the army, but actually if they're getting better, I'm quite tempted to paint up a few of those. I've still got a few built but unsprayed.
Who doesn't want a massive flaming mouth flying around the battlefield?
The big jaws. I love that model so much, but I've just not managed to find a place for it in an army yet. But this might be the catalyst I need.
Right. So, somebody in the chat asked a question that I believe I can answer. I would say I can answer this with 85% certainty. I've been looking on the frame, and I think that the Indrasta head is always bareheaded. I don't think there's a different option. If there is, then I will be equally surprised and delighted when I build it, which might not be in the too distant future, considering how my weekend is shaping up. Woohoo! Right. So, we have basically just dived into Dominion. We have looked at the cinematic trailer. We've delved into the box and looked at both factions. That's got to be it, right, Eddie? That's got to be everything we've got today.
I think we might have promised more models, Adam. I think we might have a few more models up our sleeve.
Beautiful. Well, around the time of this release, following hot on the heels of Dominion, will be some extra releases for the Stormcast Eternals. Let's have a look. I mean, that's everything I want in life. It's Stormcast Eternals riding a chariot drawn by griff chargers, and then a Stormcast Eternal with a bow. I mean, everything I want in. Right. Now, after a small technical issue, we should be back. Somebody tell me in the chat if you can hear my voice. That would be useful. And if we have, Yay! Adam's energetic excitement broke his mic. It might be true, but it didn't break my enthusiasm for the Night Judicator. I don't know how far we got before our sound was robbed from us. But Eddie, you were enthusing.
We'll just super quickly summarise. I don't know if they heard me or not, but basically the Griffhounds look amazing. They're leaping across the battlefield. They're going to eat some forces of chaos. All the Griffhounds, obviously, we've ever made are brilliant, but these ones are particularly cool. And the Night Judicator himself looks like an ancient Greek hero of old from the classical world, about to put a bolt through the head of some kind of arcane
absolutely.
colossus.
And his bow isn't just any bow. It is a Terminus great bow. It literally has Terminus in its name. Let's shoot some things.
If you imagine that Stormcast Eternals are already like immortal god warriors clad in kind of Sigmarite forged armor, they're probably 6 or 7 feet tall. So that bow is probably, poking through the second story of a building if you decided to walk indoors with it. So that is an enormous bow. So it's like the size of bolt throwers.
And this is my
Speaking of
favorite.
enormous
Look
bows,
at it. It's a chariot pulled by Griff chargers. Come on. It's so cool. He's got a Stormcast leaning off the side with an enormous bow and arrow. It's got a Stormcast leaning off the other side with a honking great big hand axe. It's got 2 Griff chargers with specially adapted paw-type claw thingamajogs to make them gallop more effectively. It's everything you need in life. Even doesn't require sort of reins between the riders and the mounts, because such is the synergy between the Stormcast Eternals and their Griff charger friends. I love it. I could probably give you some cool Stormstrike chariot facts if you give me a moment.
So just looking at the model again, it's kind of reminiscent of that kind of almost kind of classical aesthetic that some of these Stormcasts are bringing with them with these new miniatures. It looks like a kind of Romanesque or kind of ancient Greek-esque looking chariot. But obviously on a massive scale, you can kind of get a sense of the size of this thing. It is not a small chariot. There's the human skull you can see at the bottom of the base, so you can imagine the size of those things. Those are not the size of horses. They are a lot bigger, and that bow is about the size of a bolt thrower, so it is a big old chariot.
If you follow the lore of the Stormcast Eternals, this Stormstrike chariot hails from the Angelus Conclave, and its sole purpose is to deliver devastating charges and harass the enemy ranks. They are equipped with a great Stormbow and a Stormstrike axe, or potentially you can swap one of those out for a tempestuous spear. More on that closer to its release.
I don't even know what that is. We haven't seen
Me
one of
neither,
those.
but I like the
Cool.
idea of
Sounds
stabbing
cool.
people as you go past on a chariot. Not really, just for Stormcast, right? No real
You're
life.
not allowed to do it in real life. It's frowned upon, but you can.
I don't
in
even
games
think,
of
I don't even
Warhammer
think
Age
I'm
of
allowed
Sigmar.
a chariot in real life.
Shocking.
What's fantastic about this is just a wonderful indicator of the great time we're going to have with the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, the Dominion box being followed so quickly by fantastic new plastic kits, and the Stormcast Eternals aren't the only ones. I mean, if the Kruleboyz have floated your boat as you've looked through the Dominion box with us, then you're going to be very excited about these. Raph, throw the first one of these up on the screen and let's get excited. The Kruleboyz Beast Skewer Killbow. It's like the size of a tree.
Yeah, so in the box set for Dominion, we know there are some man skewer bolt boys. This is basically that taken to a level where you can start skewering gargants. So you can see this is a multi-grot operated weapon system, and it brings a really interesting thing to the Forces of Destruction, because they haven't got a huge amount of stuff in the way of like long-range war machines and things. This gives you the opportunity to put some really heavy-hitting, monster-killing power into your army, and the stat line on this thing is basically designed to take down big multi-wound monster models from far away. So if your Kruleboyz are thinking, actually, you know what, that big dragon on the other side of the battlefield, probably don't fancy fighting that in a fair fight. It would be really great if that could just die from far away and we could pick off the enemy infantry. This is the thing you can put in your army to do that. A very fun miniature, and one that fits absolutely perfectly with the rest of your Dominion set. The Kruleboyz are obviously like a new kind of breed, a new style of orcs, so you may well decide that you want to kind of theme your entire collection around Kruleboyz, and if that is what you want to do with them, you'll be pleased to know that there's plenty of stuff coming to allow you to make an entirely Kruleboyz themed army. The other way that you can field your Kruleboyz is if you have an Orruk Warclans army, you can mix them in amongst things like Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters. All of those continue to exist. But if you just super love the Kruleboyz, like I do, then you can look forward to having plenty of stuff to expand your Dominion collection into a full army. And the other thing is this guy, which is a Kruleboyz Breaker Boss, which is
So
one
very good.
of my favorite models of the whole year, and that is saying something because we've had some doozies. This is a Breaker Boss on Maya Brute Troggoth. So this one of the themes of the Kruleboyz is that, as well as kind of coming out of the swamps with all of these unpleasant Orruks and Hobgrots and things, they also come out with monsters from the swamps, and there's all sorts of kind of strange, gangly, unpleasant creatures that they've managed to kind of stir from the dark places of the mortal realms, especially the realm of beasts. This is a Maya Brute Troggoth, which is a type of Troggoth who lives in the swamps, is a particularly grumpy, unpleasant, brutal Troggoth, and on the back of it you've got a Breaker Boss, and his job basically is one of the Kruleboyz who tames these big massive beasts, and you can see the brand on the back of the Maya Brute Troggoth there. This is one that's been, I suppose, tamed. It's probably a slightly strong word, but it's a Maya Brute Troggoth that you can point in the right direction. And on the back there, he's also got a nice big stabber stick to kind of take out anybody who gets too close to his Troggoth. But
there are two really nice little features I want to point out to the people watching. One is they have matching gut plates. That's not only fun but cute. And the gut plate on the big Maya Brute Troggoth, I'll say that in a hurry, is sensational. On the back, it's got this really cute pillow to stop him getting too chafed by the pole upon which the Breaker Boss sits. The Breaker Boss is armed with a Bident Goad, and then the Troggoth himself has iron-bound clubs. I don't know what they do yet, but they sound wacky.
They're going to make a mess if you get hit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big miniature as well. So if you're looking for something to expand your Dominion box, you want a nice big kind of cool centerpiece hero/monstery model to put in amongst your Kruleboyz. This is going to be right up your street. I think it's just a really fun miniature that takes that idea of the Kruleboyz in another interesting direction. You can see that kind of brand in the top right there as well. All of the creatures of the Kruleboyz have a brand on them. They also have one on that great Gnarltooth that's in the box as well, which matches the kind of symbol of the guy on the back of it. So you can see it looks like the gut plate with the kind of one eye and the jaws. All of the brands match the kind of owner, I suppose.
Whew. And there we are. It has been an incredible rush for the last, hour and 20 minutes or so as we have delved in to this sensational new edition. There's a question going around in the chat I don't have an answer for. Somebody was asking, are the games going to be played on the same size table? He needs to make a rapid decision on his gaming table for his house. I'm afraid I don't know.
We can answer that. So the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar uses the same gaming size scale as Warhammer 40,000. So if you have current edition of Age of Sigmar and all of your tables are built, you can still absolutely use those and they still count as official, they still work. But the sizes of game, particularly for match play, are designed to be effectively take your battlefields from something like Warcry and you can scale them up. Kind of if you have 2 of them or 4 of them or 8 of them or 16 of them, you kind of scale up your battlefield size. They are those size of battlefields.
Amazing.
If there's any other questions we've seen rattling around, we might have a few minutes just to kind of answer any kind of prominent ones about the Dominion box set. I think we've dealt with most of it. A quick reminder, this is available to pre-order in June. It will be available while stocks last, but we have made an awful lot of them. So if you want to get your hands on it, and why would you not? Because it's an absolutely incredible box set. Do please look to pre-order it when the time comes. And this is the shot that you were hinting at before, Adam, with that absolutely incredible miniature photography, all the models in the box set on a nice big glorious swamp. That is pretty much just the best looking Warhammer battle I think I've ever seen.
It's so good, isn't it? The Warhammer studio team, the painters, the miniatures designers, the photographers, the folks who've worked on the books, the team who've developed the rules and the lore. For them, this is a really special day as we get to unveil what is coming in this new edition. I couldn't be more proud and more excited by the work that Jez Bickham, the head of the Warhammer Age of Sigmar team, and all of his gang have put into this just sensational looking box. It really has been just an honor to open it and to share some of it with you as you've joined in the chat. I don't know how many of you there still are, but we have had tens of thousands of you in here with us, and it has been a delight to share our enthusiasm. What remains for the rest of this is for us to thank you all so much for coming and for spending, an hour and a quarter with us and getting excited about Warhammer Age of Sigmar. 2021 is shaping up to be an incredible year for the Warhammer hobby, and this just speaks to me to be the high point. If I keep looking off to this side, I'm sorry. It's because I'm hyped to get my paws on this box properly.
As soon as we stop the stream, you're going to be diving in.
Somebody in the chat said they got the impression that Mrs. T had perhaps wasn't around this weekend, and they're dead right. So it's me and the dog and a box of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This is all coming later in June. Please, if you want more information about what's coming and all of the things that you've seen in this stream today, make sure you go over to warhammercommunity.com, and there'll be a full article which covers everything we've talked about today. Maybe there'll be some extra details. You can rewatch the video again. It'll be awesome. And then keep your eye on warhammercommunity.com for more information as we go. If you go over to Warhammer Age of Sigmar's website, you can find the link at the top of Warcom. You can subscribe to a newsletter so you can be the first to hear all the latest information, and we will be bringing you updates throughout the month so that you can join the hype and be as excited as we are about the new edition.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a few questions I've seen kind of flying by in the chat. I just wanted to quickly address. So there's a couple of questions there about price. We don't have the exact price for you today, but this is a similar sort of size of box set to the Indomitus box set that we have last year. So you can infer from that what you want, but that's not the exact price, but it's in that kind of ballpark. There's a question about battle tomes. So obviously, whenever you have a new edition of anything, Age of Sigmar, those models in that box are going to need some rules somewhere. So again, no specifics on battle tomes yet, but certainly battle tomes are a thing, will continue to be a thing, and we'll support the miniatures that get released. So again, read into that what you will. And then I think everything else, Adam, you've most of the other big points that you've covered fairly well there.
Well, in that case, what remains is to do some thanks. I've already thanked them, but I will thank them again. The Warhammer Studio team, all of you from the miniature designers and conceptualizers to the heavy metal team who painted, the army painting teams who did more, the book layout guys, the photographers, the rules writers, background writers, and all the management people who make it happen. For me, it is so exciting to see what just looks like the absolute best edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar so far. Thank you guys, you are awesome. Thank you to the moderators who've been helping the chat flow smoothly. Thank you to Raph behind the scenes who presses buttons and does things, and to the Warcom team where they've been joining in with moderation, posting on social media, or just making all of these images and videos and stuff that you've seen throughout the show. Thank you, everybody. Eddie, thank you for being my companion through this and sharing the enthusiasm.
Very, very happy to be here, Adam. Very happy to be here.
Most of all, to everybody who has joined us in the chat, from wherever you are in the world, it has been just a delight to share this excitement with you. From myself, Adam Troke, from Eddie Eccles, and from Raph behind the scenes, it has been great. We'll see you again very soon. Good night.